It's really wonderful, lovely to be here. A real pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me in this beautiful city. My name is Nick, and I love great customer service. So much that I devoted my whole career to it. And that's because every year, customers spend 14 billion hours on the phone or chatting to customer support. And my job at BCG is to work with ambitious organizations to at least try and make some of that time more valuable for customers and for businesses and for all of us. As Des said very kindly, you can follow my insights on my weekly Substack. So if you just click there, or very happy to have a conversation later on in the break as well. It'll be good to meet all of you. Question for all of you. Hands in the air. Who has heard of something called AI? I got it. It's a trick question. You've had nothing but AI pumped at you. I know that. I understand that. But keep your hands in the air. Who's used AI today in some form or another? Yeah, okay, pretty much the whole room, yeah. Like, I don't know why I'm saying this. Des has told you this already. Like, AI, of course, is everywhere. I think I say AI, those two words, more often than I say the names of my own children, and I'm not sure quite how I feel about that. But what I am sure of is that generative AI is, and agentic AI, is this magical, game-changing technology that we have barely scratched the surface of what it is capable of. We've kind of only done the obvious stuff with it yet, which is why, just sort of 3 years into this, latest journey with AI since the launch of GPT-3, it's really disappointing kind of to hear all this talk of bubbles. Like everyone, even these very well-known people are all talking about bubbles. And we're kind of feeling like, hey, we've only just get started, and already the sheen is kind of coming off this hype. And that, of course, leads me to the question, which is like, well, where's all the hype come from, eh? But what I love about working with customer service and customer support practitioners is that we deal with the business of reality, right? Our tools have to work in the real world. Our processes have to work in the real world, because if they don't, our customers let us know about it, and there's no hiding. There's nowhere else to go. So we have to focus on things that really work and really have value and really have impact. And what's good is AI in customer service absolutely is not a bubble, and absolutely it works. And I'm sure you've seen some great examples of that today. Maybe you've lived some of those examples. We'll talk about some here now as well. But it's not easy, right? And I think of it, it's more like a balloon than a bubble. It's a balloon ride that might have to take us over some slightly treacherous mountains on the way in order to get to the beautiful, verdant valley on the other side. And a lot of people would agree with me that it's not a bubble. So we at BCG, we spent the summer doing a lot of things, but one of the things we did, we spoke to 150 C-suite executives about their plans and what they're doing with AI in customer service and customer support. We found almost all of them, 90%, have already invested in AI for customer service, and pretty much the same number intend to invest more in future. This is just the start of where they're going. But critically, of that same group of people, just over a quarter, only 28%, were able to say that at the moment they're achieving measurable, meaningful P&L impact. Now, many of you will have read that report from MIT that said, a few weeks ago it came out, it said 95% of generative AI pilots fail. Well, I guess the good news here is we've got a sort of 5 to 6 times better success rate in customer service. And that's, of course, because, in customer service, it is all about conversations. It's very easy to measure the data, relatively easy to measure the data. There's clear, obvious use cases for AI. But it's still not a walk in the park, right? Impact is not assured. Why is that? Well, the other part of our research and our experience shows that the biggest share of transformation efforts to be successful needs to go on people and process change. And that means shifting organizations to new structures, new ways of working, new definitions of success. And so our job as leaders is to influence the preferences and behaviors of our customers and our employees to help take them on that journey with these amazing tools. The journey is worth the effort. Sure, you've seen some great success stories today as well. I want to share some of ours. What you can see on the right-hand side here, these are the results of work that we did with companies that started pretty much straight after GPT-3 was released, so almost exactly 3 years ago. And some of them are now achieving incredible results at scale. Just one I want to pick out, the 90% process automation. Now, this is for a bank in Germany where they had a specific mortgage application journey, so home loans application journey. And over the last 2 years, they automated a process that was entirely manual. Now 90% is carried out by agentic AI. And that seems like, wow, that's good for productivity. But actually, the biggest benefit of that is customers are getting their loans approved more quickly. What that means is that this bank can go to brokers or their agents, and they can sell more mortgages because they can assure their customers that they're going to get more. So they're using this to grow, and that's the biggest value that they're getting from that, even beyond that 90% productivity improvement. So what can we learn from these organizations that have been through that journey and they can really show assured success? Well, I think what's interesting, when we talk to all of them, 5 things stuck out. It's always these 5 things. Number 1, they're business-led. So it is led predominantly by a business need working hand in hand with the rest of the organization, and particularly, obviously, the technical expertise. They focus on value that can be created by AI, which is different to the question of what can we do with AI. So thinking about the value first, not the tool. Next, this is the hard one. They do invest in data and intelligence as a valuable asset in itself. So there aren't shortcuts for that. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do all of it, but there absolutely is a necessity to build those layers in order to get the AI to work effectively. And what we find, interestingly, they always build and buy. It's never one, it's never just the other. Always a combination of building and buying to get to what they need to get their value. And then, for me, most excitingly, or where it gets really interesting, the last thing they do is they don't just automate what they have today. They take the opportunity to reinvent service for a world of unconstrained AI. So service of the future is unconstrained because it is powered by AI. What's that mean in practice? Well, I said at the beginning, I love customer service. I love great customer service. Difficult job, because a lot of customer service, let's face it, is not great. A lot of customer service is really frustrating, okay? And we've all been there. Why is it frustrating? Long queue times, self-service doom loops where we get sent round and round and round. Once we get through to somebody, maybe they can't answer the question, they're passing you through between lots of different people. Happens far more often than it should do. Why does it happen? Because so many customer service and customer support models are built around the idea that you have very limited, constrained human resource that can actually fix the problem and help a customer. And we need to spend all this time throttling the actual customer demand before they can get there. So service that's been reinvented with AI is preemptive and proactive. What that means is we don't wait for a customer to raise their hand and say, I need help, but we can reach out and start to help them beforehand. 3 examples of people who are doing this now. Emirates NBD, they're the largest bank in Dubai. They now have a full data platform with AI analytics on the top of it that predicts a customer's need before every call. So what that means is if I try and make a payment on my phone and it fails, if I then call up, I speak to their conversational IVR and it says, do you need help with the payment you just tried to make? It's a small thing, but it's radically different to them just having to try and explain what they need and try and get through to somebody and explain it. Just really changes the feeling for a customer. Verizon have announced they're going further with this. They're using data to predict that a customer might have need and reaching out to them proactively. So, for example, if I've tried to upgrade my iPhone and I've sent them my old iPhone and I'm hoping for a trade-in credit, and if that credit hasn't been applied to my account in time, in the old days, I'd have had to call up and spend ages on the phone trying to get it back. Now they have Google Gemini bot that will reach out to me proactively, explaining the issue and giving me options for getting the solution. So going from an organization that maybe people might have felt in the past didn't want to talk to me to one that's proactively reaching out and trying to talk to me. Magi Bank, probably maybe a logo you don't recognize here. This is a new bank in Brazil. And this company, they've built an entire company where the only front door of that company is in WhatsApp. So I can get every single one of my banking services that I need as a continuous WhatsApp conversation. And that redefines what we might mean by frictionless. Like literally I just go into WhatsApp and I get whatever I need. And that's enabled by AI working hand in hand with human support there. It's also doing one other thing which we're going to talk about in the panel, which is really converging the concept of support and product into a single experience for a customer. That's in the front end. In the back end, we're also seeing, in order to make this happen, the people and process transformation is we're seeing innovation in operating models. These new models demand different ways of working. So we're seeing a shift from the kind of traditional pyramid-shaped customer service organizations where most people are focused on the direct day-to-day business of supporting customers, towards organizations with smaller pyramids that resemble more product management. So people are spending their time continually developing the offering to adapt to changes in the customer and business model and coming up with new ideas about how can we actually serve customers better rather than just, using the same old paradigms of the past. So that's where you come in, right, as customer service leaders, because actually as you take these ideas forward, your job over the next few years is to inspire your teams to come up with these new support models, to break old paradigms, and to design a world where service is no longer constrained and it's this unconstrained service provided by AI. I wanted to leave you with 3 questions to kind of take away or to discuss. First is, what are the 2 to 3 priority use cases where you could offer, within your organization, where you could offer a differentiated experience? So what are where would you start? Like, what are the few unmet needs that you could really go further with? And then pulling that back to saying, what would it mean to be unconstrained? How would you serve customers differently? How could you have conversations with customers that it's just not feasible to have today? And then finally, how do you get your teams excited about this future so that they are not just adapting to the change, but they become active agents of change? Hopefully that's something to kind of stimulate some thoughts. That's it from me. It's been really great to come and be able to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to discussing it further in the panel. But yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to be here. And yeah, all the best in your journey on creating unconstrained AI customer support. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. That was awesome. Good job. Can I have the clicker?
You want the
clicker?
Cool,
cheers.
Yeah.
So we're going to start the actual panel discussion now. So there will be a QR code at some point where we'll take questions from all of you. But for the moment, let me call our various folks on stage, our panelists. So no one's telling me what the order is, so I'm going to call names and we'll see what happens. Let's first of all bring out, let's just say, Jehad, who's the Chief Design Officer of Toast. Hey, Jehad. And, oh, sorry, we're getting chairs first. Okay, let's do this again. All right, so let's bring Jehad, who is the Chief Design Officer of Toast. Let's bring Mariana, who is the COO of Crypto. And lastly, again, let's welcome back Nick, who is the Service Matter partner there. Now, we're down a few chairs, guys. We're going to have to work this out. It's cool. Yeah, no, you go here and I'll go here, and 2 chairs will magically appear. Watch.
Okay.
Cool. So my first question is going to appear on a slide shortly. Yeah. So I guess, first of all, I want to say thanks to Nick. That was really good. Sweet. Okay, you can actually sit down now. It's cool. Yeah. We're good at AI, not logistics. All right, so look, CS has become like the sort of battleground, or at least a proving ground for so much of AI, and like the lessons from CS will not stay in CS. I think we all kind of know that, and this is true whether it's like finding efficiencies, whether it's like changing how your product evolves, whether it's like changing how your organization should transform. So I think if I was to sort of start anywhere, I'd say, how hard has it been to lead your function through the last 2 years? And we'll start with Jehad. And just for frame of reference, Jehad's Chief Design Officer of Toast. You probably know what Toast is. If you don't, he'll explain it. But it's a big, big company. And if you've ever interacted with a restaurant, you've probably interacted with Toast.
Yeah.
So how
that's
hard
a good
is it?
description.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And you'll see it, hopefully you'll now notice it more as you go out and grab dinners tonight. It's over the last couple of years in particular, if you think about, you were talking about conversions of roles, support has been traditionally a way for customers to get help when they need it, but it's a pretty separate experience from product. For example, most of our support was through the phone. It was mostly operational. Customers would pick up the phone, ask a question, a support agent, a human agent at the end of the line would help them do something, and then they would go back to their work. And if it's a piece of feedback, it'll make its way to our product teams. That's fundamentally changed for us over the last 2 years. We now treat support as a core part of the product experience.
Interesting.
We have a dedicated product engineering and design team to our support experience. We integrate it deeply with how we think about the actual product end-to-end journey. So for example, our transformation of thinking through how we evolve our product experience, whether with AI or otherwise, starts from a service designer looking through the end-to-end customer journey, figuring out low-hanging fruit that we can address, as well as long-term innovations we can do. Looking through things we can solve in the product versus with support, looking in ways we can merge a conversation that starts with, I need support, to actually, whether it's training or whether it's an opportunity or whether it's actually we can do the thing for you. You don't have to connect to any agent. It's now deeply part of the experience, which actually also changed my role, changed the role of many folks in the org, for example.
In a good way, or?
Yes, in a much better way. It actually brings us much closer to customers too.
Yeah.
We analyze, for example, a ton of fin conversations to get a sense of where pain points are. We analyze a ton. We've built a lot of tech to be able to tell what are emerging problems, what are things we need to pay attention to, what are ways our customers use our software in ways we didn't expect, but also ways we can turn a support conversation into a product use conversation into a great experience for customers.
Awesome.
And changes the relationship we have with our operations teams in particular.
Yeah, cool. Mariana, similar question to you. You've had to lead a pretty large function through an AI revolution. What was easy, what was hard?
Well, probably I've had a very similar experience here. But one of the hardest things is to change management through the introduction of AI. And probably it's not just, let's address the elephant in the room, the size of the team that has to become smaller, but also the way the teams have to change and the way you have to introduce with a lot of empathy AI and to actually teach your agents to work with AI instead of distrust it and maybe misuse it. Through the years, over the last 3 years, we had a very large support team of thousands of agents. We scaled it down to probably just 1,000 at the minute, and we complemented with an AI-first approach. And that AI is not just the conversational AI piece, but it's also the product and how it developed. So at the minute, you can go to the Crypto.com app and you can look for any topics that you can resolve completely automatically. And that may involve, you providing certain information or documents to AI and things happening on the background that you don't really realize, but all of a sudden your problem has been fixed and you never have to speak to an agent. That, of course, is not always the case, right? So when you manage change, you have to not only think about the AI-first solution. It's always, our customer support is always AI first, but the people on the background are also learning how to use AI. So there is the agent assist part, for example. So when you finally reach an agent, how do you use AI that taps into your SOPs, into your AOPs, into your knowledge base, so that the agent can provide a faster and probably better response to the customer? And obviously, the distrust starts disappearing because it's not about keeping the same type of team. Normally in operations, you have this matrix structure. You have your agents, you have your TLs, your OMs, all of these abbreviations. Right now, we have a whole new department of quite a few people who actually manage AI.
Yeah.
So these are your guys who would be looking at reviewing AI answers on a daily basis. They're looking into the AI performance, they look into the numbers, they look into the customer reactions. And from all of this, it transpired that support is not just a reactive function. We now actually have a proactive support. We have support in a more sales way, for example, so new customers, when they sign up, could be speaking to a voice AI, for example, that would explain how to use the app. You have customers of higher tiers who would be getting a special attention of more proactive support, where AI would be reaching out to them saying, hey, like, how is this going? We see your numbers are going up or down. Is there anything we can help with? And then you have your reactive support. And all of this was not easy to manage, but I think when you manage it with transparency and you disperse enough information about how the organization uses AI, it eventually becomes the future that everyone embraces.
Nick, let's build on this for a sec. So something that's in common with both answers here, which I think is really evokes a lot of where the opportunity is I think when AI first happened, it was largely just seen as like a cost takeout, right? It was like, hey, we can deploy some AI and save some money. But both Jehad and Mariana are speaking to the idea of like, actually, no, there's new things we can do, there's better things we can do that deliver a better experience that's actually not best understood by like how many seats did we cancel, but actually best understood by like how did we really move the dial. What happens in an organization when that plays out, or how can an organization like build on that?
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I want to say is it's been a real pleasure here today because I've been speaking to some people, particularly in Mariana and Jehad, who are I would say, at this sort of further up ends of AI maturity than still many organizations are. So I think actually many organizations still are in that very cost-focused approach, or primarily cost-focused approach. But yeah, I see organizations go through stages, right? And I think the starting point often is it's very cost-focused. I hear people, we all use these words, by the way, so I'm not trying to be a saint here, but people use words like deflection and containment as being the sort of mark of success. And they also say things, and again, no judgment here, because I do, they say things
You can
like,
judge, it's okay.
Okay, our low-value customers, we're going to make them use AI, and our high-value customers, we're going to make them call us. We're not going to let them use the AI. And in all of that, there's a kind of implicit kind of suggestion that actually the AI is like the second class thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's there to back customers off. It's not there. And so you have to get through that if you're going to build something that's going to be good. And then the next phase is always, okay, well, look, in order to get this through the business case, we need to think about the value that it's going to create. And often we start to think about, first, it's the kind of first order value, I would call it, which is, can the bot do some cross-selling or upselling or those sorts of things? And again, that's all very well. It's really good. But to make that work, you've got to earn the right. So you've got to earn the right to do cross-selling and upselling. I had a conversation with a chief marketing officer actually this morning at an insurance company, and she was saying, well, now customers, they're starting to use ChatGPT to get financial advice, wealth advice, but I want them to talk to my bot about that. And I actually didn't have a good answer for it at the time, but the good answer which I thought about, which I wish I'd said, was, the thing to remember is when customers talk to ChatGPT to get financial advice, that wasn't the first thing they ever asked ChatGPT. They've been talking for months now, learning about what ChatGPT can do for them, finding out that it's useful, helpful for certain things. And then eventually they build up the trust and they make the leap and they go, right, now I'm going to ask it, like, where should I put my 401k? Like those sorts of things. And so that doesn't happen from day one. And so in order to get the value, it's then that third stage of maturity is that realization that we've got to create something that customers love and that is really useful. And the value comes from that. It comes both from a better customer experience, better loyalty, but also once you do that, customers will actually come to you saying, can you give me some advice? Tell me what other products I can get, those sorts of things.
Interesting, like there's two quick anecdotes in that. One on the idea that like we use the AI for the free users or for any version of that. I talked to a customer a while ago who was like, they did exactly that, and all their premium customers were pissed off because they're like, why are you making me wait 15 minutes to get a hand?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I think there is a kind of a reality check there that people need, which is like your median customer experience is not a perfect answer in 7 seconds. And then the other piece we see a lot is like this idea of induced demand. So like when Finn starts answering correctly, people tend to use it more, which is just a reality. It's the same. It's like, of course, people are like, oh, this thing's paying out. I'm getting great advice. I'm going to keep going back to it. So I think that's just like you have to think about the longitudinal bot relationship in some sense. If I was to go a different direction, if support is the engine of transformation, like to what degree do you think like the relationship of customer support can influence the whole customer life cycle? Whether that might be sales, where I'm sure you have Toast as a sales team, or like perhaps in crypto how you might handle premium, or maybe just at a work transform level, like What's the best approach, would you say, for like the CS and CX leaders here to kind of like to start to broaden their mandate and kind of reach into their sibling functions and say, we can help? Question to anyone. I'm going to say Nick.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think what AI enables us to do, I think, look, again, I'm going to say lots of, bear in mind, I've worked in customers, I used to run customer service in telecom, so I have lived this experience. You can get very used in customer service to being at the receiving end of a lot of stuff, right? The business does things, and then when those things don't quite work as well as they should do, it ends up in support. And so, sometimes it can be hard to kind of pull yourself out of that. The thing that we found AI enables you to do is, through the analytics, is have much more precise analytics and insights. So we can say not just, oh, that marketing communication you took out, well, we saw a jump in calls yesterday, but we can actually go specifically to these customers called up or they chatted with us and this was what they didn't understand and this is what we need to do differently this time. And this is what it cost us, by the way. So you had this campaign and your efficiency of your campaign, your marketing campaign was minimized because of this. So the data helps, but it's also helping them tell better stories, right? And I think, again, like we move beyond the role of customer support, turning up to the ExCo meeting with the dashboard on answer times to being, this is what we've learned about our customers. Yeah. We have this amazing asset, which is we have these thousands, sometimes millions of conversations with customers. There's value to that, and we want to bring people along to
That's the biggest thing we saw with Insights. So we released a feature called Insights, which AI analyzes the millions of conversations and puts them into categories, trends, timelines, topics, surges, all that sort of stuff. The biggest asset we see our customers is like that's a report now like the CEO wants. Whereas before it was like our average handling time was up in air and they're like, please leave. Whereas now it's like, now they have the goods. They have like really useful stuff. Mariana, Jehad, anything to add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, very similar to what Nick said. It's not just the AI that answers customers, but it's also the AI you're using to analyze the way your agents would work, be it just an AI agent or a human agent. If you are measuring support levels by CSAT and NPS, I think these are really inaccurate metrics. You can't really tell if a customer is satisfied just by measuring CSAT, because you could have a product where, I don't know, your money is missing and your deposit is missing, let's say, because I come from a highly regulated environment. You're not going to be happy if they don't find your money on the spot and at the minute, right? You will be happy, however, if your Amazon order has arrived and you just weren't home to accept it. So it really depends on the type of conversation you're having. It's not always the treatment of the agent. So the actual value for us of AI is analyzing that customer conversation, looking at the tone of voice, looking at what words have been used. Are you using enough empathy? Are you able to make your customer comfortable and trust the organization and trust that whatever service you are here to provide is going to be provided? It's not just about the using actual AI as a conversational piece. It's more about the evaluation that it does and how it ties up with your brand identity, for example, because you could be very easily teaching AI, probably faster than any agent, human agent out there, to have your own brand identity and to speak on behalf of the company as you want them to speak to a human being. This is very easily managed through, let's say, an AI CSAT. Right.
Jehad, how do you think about AI representing the brand?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that we've kind of, over the last couple of years, it changed a lot, at least like for me, for R&D teams at Toast, is, first of all, I have a lot more empathy for support teams.
Good.
In many ways.
About time.
And I think like the leadership team and folks who are used to looking at CSAT numbers and kind of hopefully it's up in the right, have also a lot more empathy for how, what a customer journey actually looks like. We like one of the things we talk about in design a lot is emotional design, and how do you design an emotional experience and understand the emotions of the customers at the receiving end, not just the logic of what you actually want a customer to do or the behavior that you want them to change to do. And one of the interesting things since kind of over the last 2 years is we see support teams have a lot more agency to advocate for things. We see support teams have a lot more agency to put whether CSAT metrics or CX score metrics or
Does
uptime
the agency
metrics.
come from the evidence?
It's both the data of saying, like, of course CSAT was down this week because here's the full context of what happened.
Look what you did.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually the same agent who's been doing really, really well has a terrible CSAT score this week because they've been on the receiving end of like the simplest example of this that's really obvious even before AI was outages. You get an outage, automatically your CSAT score goes
All of
down.
your support team are terrible because it's their fault.
Exactly. But actually, there are a lot more nuances in every problem that happens that sometimes the smaller it is, the harder it is to pinpoint. Is it actually a support team issue, which most of the time goes into an operational conversation that you're probably more familiar with, versus actually this is, if a customer got a call from our sales team to try to upsell them something while we haven't solved an issue that they've had, they're likely have a different feeling about support than if they have had an amazing experience with those so far.
Absolutely.
The brand piece, one of the things that's been interesting for us as well is we have a dedicated designer on the team and likely a growing skill set we call conversational designer. They're responsible for how Fin talks using guidance. They're also responsible for how our AI assistant that we're releasing later this month talks and behaves. And it's a pretty unique skill set that's pretty interesting. It works very closely with our support team, works very closely with our customers, with our engineering teams. And his role is basically to influence the emotional experience and the brand, or infuse the brand experience and emotional experience of every AI conversation a customer has with whether Fin or any other AI that we have. One, to make it sound and look the same. So you don't have to, the support agent speaks differently to me than the AI assistant. But also, and obviously, reserve brand. We love bread buns and stuff like that at Toast. So, some brand stuff. But also kind of infuse a level of emotional intelligence that, if you're calling and it's dinner rush and your printer is not working in the kitchen, there is a different sense of urgency to how we talk to you. Even as humans, AI aside, than if you're calling to see what the marketing suite that Toast has can do for you to increase the number of people that come to your restaurant. They're very different conversations, and treating them the same just doesn't sound human. It's not how humans would act.
Yeah, that makes sense. One topic I just want to quickly go back to, Mariana, is like you've led crypto through like a pretty substantial just transformation of the support org in terms of I guess how many people, future plans, et cetera. There'll be folks here who probably are or will at some point be doing similar. What sort of guidance or advice would you offer to work through this?
Well, you first need to look into your whole org chart, right? Operations is normally very voluminous in terms of number of people that would service different kind of functions. So for me, that's not only customer support, but that's actually anything on the back end that may happen to a customer, be it a risk-related topic or a payments-related topic, et cetera. So you need to take out your org chart and look into the functions that are going to transform. I'm not saying you're going to minimize those functions because AI will not be replacing entirely human beings. But if you even look deeper and with empathy into the human beings that are into this organization, it's all about developing their skills. Because if you look at it, customer support is an entry-level job, right? And normally these are your best people that will grow into an organization and they'll join the development team or whatever their interests or studies have led them to do. And look into this team and think, who can actually embrace the change with AI? Who can join the quality assurance team? Who can do quality assurance on the AI? How do I manage the product relationship? And this is something that you're probably very familiar with, but previously, operations were just people who sit on the back end, and they would normally get attention only when things go wrong. And when things go right, normally no one thinks about operations. Right now, what happens is it's all eyes on customer support and on back-end operations because we work very closely with product, making sure that the customer experience is tailored in such a way that customers would love to chat to our AI. They would love to chat to customer support. They love to be contacted first by our either agentic AI or human agents. The structure that you need to build according to this is, of course, your teams are going to be leaner, but you're going to develop your people to join different departments that you have to create within that organization. At the moment, at least for us, we have created a whole new team that actually manages automation and AI. And these are people that normally would come from our customer support team or from our risk teams. It's not new people necessarily that we've hired. Maybe you would need certain expertise and team leads that you need to bring in, but most of your people have the ability to transform themselves and do something else. And Des, you spoke on stage about how jobs would transform. This is exactly what happens in any organization when AI is introduced. You just have new teams being created that have to manage the introduction of AI. They have to work very closely with product, they have to work with design, they need to speak to the engineers so that AI can actually access the right kind of systems without jeopardizing security and privacy information of customers. And they can then deliver a whole new journey, a whole new experience into the product where people would not be thinking, oh, I'm interacting with a machine, that's boring, I need human. No, they would actually love the fact that it's seamless, it's much faster than what an agent could deliver in terms of response. And most of the time, it's accurate.
Yeah, which is always helpful.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Yeah, go for it.
Is that all right, Des?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear. So, yeah, I'm seeing it a lot now, this great movements to get people working in customer support to then build and run the AI. I presume for a lot of these new roles, there's not like a playbook for this. Like, it's all new. So how are you finding people are adapting, not just about learning the skills, but from a role, in customer support, you follow the process, to a job where it's more about the outcome. It's more about, iteratively working out the answer. How long does it take people to adapt to that?
So normally when you introduce AI into an organization, you see how people react. And you would have a chunk of agents that would be very defensive against it. And they would never use it. So in the beginning, when we were introducing AI, we actually asked agents to test it. And it was in the form of agent assist. The percentage of people that would actually open this and use it overall was so low until we started mandating and saying, like, listen, guys, this is going to help you do your job better. This is for your own benefit. And then you start gauging the people who do this really well and the ones that would have constant feedback, the ones that would dive into it and would actually provide very valuable insights to their managers. So this is how you pick a team.
They're pushing towards it, okay.
So you really have to be very empathetic, right? You're working with humans in an organization, so you need to make sure that you're transparent enough and you give enough opportunities to people to develop, to be able to keep the same team, because obviously you don't want to disperse of your whole team and hire new people, right? Continuity is very important to an organization, but you have to make sure that people are charmed by AI. Not an easy task, though.
Cool. I'm going to move us on to questions from the crowd. And whilst I'm the moderator of the panel, there are questions for me. I'll get to them later. Let's start off with a question for Nick. As AI gains the ability to do more of what humans can do, where do you, as business leaders, elect to still keep a human touch? What's left for humans?
Well, I think there's different answers to that for the different roles. So if we think about the kind of the existing frontline roles that exist, so the people who are actually supporting customers, I mean, there is something where there will always be the need for some humans. Now, one side of that is sometimes someone just wants to talk to a human. Like, it's not even a rational thing necessarily. It's just they just want to have that knowledge that I have transferred some of my frustration or my need onto another living thing. So there's something there. Maybe that will go away societally at some point. But you know that feeling, don't you? Like, I'm married. I do understand that feeling. Anyway, so there's kind of that. But there's also that I think, like, until you have a world where you have AI agents that could sort of genuinely sort of virtually swivel chair and interact with any computer system you have, there's always going to be a need for some level of flexibility that it's just more economical to have a human doing it than a bot. So I think we think about that as being typically there's less of the sort of first line work, but there's definitely going to be some of that second line or exception handling work left. And then I think on the other side, some of the stuff that Mariana and Jehad have talked about the kind of the evolving roles of people who are sort of building the AI, maybe that will go to the next level in that, we have agents that are able to kind of autonomously refine and improve their own approach as well. Where I think the human part comes in is still there's this ingenuity. And what I mean by ingenuity, it's like, how do we serve a customer in a way that isn't just automating what we've done before? So we're not just optimizing towards a goal, but we're going, how do we think about this completely differently? Now, that person may still be supported by AI. I mean, ChatGPT is a great way, or Anthropic is a great way of stimulating ideas, but I think that's very much a human bot conversation. So yeah, those things will always be there. And I think that the other thing that we see, as we see with any technology, is the more tech there is, the more need there is for customer support. So there's always going to be this kind of conveyor belt of the more we automate, the more we're going to need to have people thinking about the next step.
A question for, we'll go Mariana, then Jehad, is it's from Ben at Mercury. He says, with all the talk about organizational structure, consolidation, et cetera, how do we keep developing new senior talent when the junior level roles become prime targets for like AI takeouts? So how do you think about like entry level roles, knowing that that might be your path towards getting a principal level support engineer or whatever?
That's such a great question. It's really hard, isn't it? But when you think of entry-level jobs, so for example, in my organization, an entry-level job is as hard as it gets. It's a very complex product. You have to spend months learning on how to support it. And in the end, we very often lose you to other teams, hopefully within our own organization. But the way you have to support it and you have to develop it is through pitching the ability to actually have quicker growth within the company, because you are supported by AI. Your job is not going to disappear. AI is not taking any of your jobs. But if you don't learn how to use AI, you definitely are going to lose your job or lose the possibility to transform it into something else. I think the incumbents in these roles would have to intrinsically change the way they think about the role. And it's already happening, because normally for a customer support job, you'll get these young people straight out of university who just want to start working in an organization. This has already transformed, because they have to use a lot more tools and I would say a lot more of their brains to be able to support. There are no longer scripts, right? It's not once upon a time when you had the book and you just look for the right answer. That's not the case. The right answer is in front of you, and you still need your critical thinking. This is not something that AI is going to replace. You still need to have your memory slots filled in by information that you know by heart to be able to reproduce stuff. So the basic is still going to be there, but you will be growing much faster into an organization if you're able to use these tools to support yourself and propel yourself further into the organization.
That makes sense. We are at time, so unfortunately I don't get to go to you, but I'm sure your answer is also stunning. Folks, this has been a wonderful panel. Thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you to Nick, to Mariana, and to Jehad, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.